If you love drawing flowers and want some simple, easy flowers that you can draw in less than 10 minutes, this video is for you. Today we're gonna draw 9 types of flowers, and I promise they're super easy and you'll definitely be able to do them. All you need to create these cute doodles is a black pen. I'll be using this brush pen by Tombow, but of course you can just use any type of pen that you have available to you. No need to have any fancy pens for this one. And before we start, I really want to invite you to join the waiting list for my new ink drawing program so you can be the first to know when the program launches. We're gonna have limited spots for the first cohort, so if you're interested in it, just sign up in the link in the description and you'll get an email once the program is available. Now let's get started. The first flower we're gonna do is a set of daisies in a glass jar. So start by marking the top edge of the jar with a couple curved lines like this, then just complete the shape of the jar, and from here you can start drawing the center discs, which is basically the center part of the flower, and the petals for each flower. One tip that I have for you to make your flowers look a bit more natural and less basic is to not make the center discs perfectly circular unless you want them to look like they're facing you. But with flowers, they're usually facing slightly upwards or on an angle, so you want to make the center discs more like oval shapes. For the petals, same thing, you want them to be uneven, so this is why I'm not drawing them one next to the other like we used to do as kids, but in random order like this, so that some petals can be overlapped by other petals and so on. You can also vary the size and shape for each petal as well, like this, for a more natural look. And yeah, just keep playing with different sizes and shapes of petals like this until you have something that looks more or less like we have here. And now for the glass effect, draw a rounded rectangle like this to represent the water inside the jar, and draw the stems with broken lines in the part that is behind the glass. And the bottom part of the stems that are inside the water, you want to draw them a bit to the side like this to create the water effect. You can also draw some leaves and stipple inside the center discs to add some texture. And to do this, you just want to add a bunch of dots all around the disc and leave more white space in the center to create a bit of depth like this. So you're basically adding more dots on the outsides of the discs and leaving a little bit less dots in the center. And there you go, we have our daisies. Now let's move on to the next one, and this time we're going to draw a set of tiny little flowers called forget-me-not flowers. I think that's what it is according to Google. And as always, we start with the centers of each flower, so just draw little circles like this, and then you're gonna add 5 little oval shapes. They're like pointy things coming outside of each circle, so it kind of looks like a star. You want to leave them kind of evenly spaced out from each other, and from here you can add the petals from the tip of each of these oval shapes like this. So you're basically doing like a half a circle from one little oval shape to the other until it looks like a flower. The petals are basically rounded like this, and they're going to overlap in some spots, which is totally okay and actually pretty cute. So if you have one oval shape that's about to hit another oval shape, just let it end when the other flower starts, so it looks like they're overlapping. And once you complete all the petals, you can add the stems behind the flowers. You can also add some detail by hatching these short little dashes all around the petals like this. And this is it. This is how you draw forget-me-not flowers. Super cute. Our third flower is going to be tulips. So start with a rounded shape like this with a little dent at the top, so it's not perfectly an oval shape. It's basically more oval at the bottom and sides, and then at the top it becomes a little flat with a little bit of a shaky line at the top. And then add some petals sideways all around like this. I also like to add these 2 faded lines in the center of each petal like this to create the tulip texture. Just make sure the lines don't touch the bottom or top of the petals. Then you're gonna do the same thing for the second tulip, starting with an oval-ish shape and then adding some petals sideways on the sides and behind the main oval one. I also drew a third one here, and you can really play with the overlapping petals if you want. I personally love this effect, and I think it makes the flowers look a little bit more interesting, so feel free to test some different combinations of overlapping petals. You can also play with making a petal kind of like fall more to the side, like it's opening up. And then when you're ready, you can add the stems and add some long pointy leaves like this, some on the sides and some behind the flowers, kind of opening up towards the top. And this is how you draw tulips. Let's move on to flower number 4, and I actually don't know what this is called. Also, sorry, it's a little bit hard to see what I'm doing here because my hand is covering it. But basically, you're gonna draw some oval shapes behind each other to form this flower, and then add a short stem and some buttons like this, so like the little buttons before it becomes a flower. Here Here I'm also adding some leaves and a thicker stem that has these nodes. So it's basically one of those flowers that kind of grow out of trees. Do you know what I'm talking about? They're super pretty, so I wanted to draw them. But yeah, I don't know if they have a specific name. I'm sure they do, but I don't know them. Anyway, moving on. After this, you can add another set of leaves and a flower on the other side, facing downwards like this. You can also add some rounded fruits pending from the main stem like this, and add some stippling at the bottom to create some texture and differentiate the fruits from the flowers. I feel like this doodle here is a little bit more freestyle, so you can kind of play with it. You can add more fruits, more leaves, more flowers. You can kind of play with it and just freestyle if you want. The fruits are super easy to do, and I think they add a super interesting effect to the drawing. It's basically a few oval shapes hanging from a stem like this. You can do them from both sides, kind of like pointing up and also kind of falling downwards. And to finish this one, we can add some lines coming from the center of each flower and add some dots at the very top of these lines, like I'm doing here. I'm doing this for both flowers, and this also helps differentiate the flowers from the fruits. And there you have it. This is our flower number 4. Let's move on to flower number 5. And this time we're going to do cone flowers, and these are super cute and easy. All you have to do is start with an incomplete oval shape like this with the bottom part open, and then you're gonna draw some petals coming from the oval shape, but only downwards like this. You're not gonna complete the whole flower on the top. Just draw petals on the bottom side of this oval shape. Remember to do the same technique we did for the daisies, where you're not drawing one petal after the other with a continuous line. You want to do them pretty randomly so that you can play with the shapes, the sizes, and create a more natural look for your flower. As long as you make sure they're opening up on an angle and downwards, you can play with the shapes and make them overlap like this, which is super cute. Also, if you see there's some like empty spaces between petals, just draw another petal behind it. That also makes your flower looks a little bit more full. I'm gonna draw another flower here next to the first one. And also another detail that's important, if you pay attention to the petal shape, it's not perfectly oval at the tip. They're kind of squared with rounded corners. So basically you want to do like a little bit of a shaky line at the end of each petal like this. And now let's do a third one, but now facing towards you. So this one's going to be the traditional shape with petals all around it. The center disc can be a little bit more round. And to create some extra texture on your flower and make it pop a little bit more, on the center discs we can add these short dashes coming from the center out. So in the two flowers at the top, the dashes are going to be coming down because the center of the flower is at the very top. Right? Does that make sense? The flower is basically looking up, so this is why the petals are coming down, and then the dashes should follow that same direction. And the third flower that we did that's facing you, and you are basically looking at it and being able to see the whole flower, the center is going to be at the center. So here you just draw the dashes coming out all from the center towards the edges of the disc. Another thing you can do that is super cute, and I think it makes your flower look super interesting, is add some extra lines in the center. So you're basically making the very center of the disc a little bit darker by just adding more lines. The direction here is super important, so keep them moving from center out in all directions. And to wrap up this beautiful flower, you can add the stems and pointy leaves like this. I like these leaves to be pointing out like that. They're kind of like similar to the leaves we did for the tulips, but they're just smaller, and instead of going up, they're going to the sides. And this was flower number 5, guys. Let's move on to flower number 6, and this time we're going to be doing a sage flower. It kind of looks like a lavender flower, but it's a little bit more sparsed out. It's actually very similar, honestly, but I feel like the reference I used was a sage flower. And the sage flower is basically a bunch of tiny little flowers together growing up, and they're very much intertwined, so sometimes it's a little bit hard to differentiate them and know where to put the lines. So what we're gonna do here is add a bunch of little heart shapes like this with a little triangle at the top, so in between the little two top parts of the hearts, and you're gonna make them bigger at the bottom, and they're gonna start getting smaller as you go up. So basically bigger hearts at the bottom, as you move up they become smaller and smaller hearts. For the bigger ones at the bottom, you can add extra little petals. So as you can see here, I'm not leaving just the heart, I'm adding like sometimes one more little curved shape to the side or on the top, just to make the flower look a little bit more full. And when you're happy with the amount of little hearts, if you feel like they're evenly distributed in the paper, you can add the stems. So you're basically gonna have one main stem in the middle and then a few extra stems poking out from the main one, leading towards the little hearts. and they're going on an angle. So it's basically 45 degrees to one side or to the other side from the main stem, basically. Then you can add some leaves at the bottom. You can also draw the line that divides the leaf like that. Just make sure that it never touches the end or the beginning of your leaf. You should just stay in the middle and kind of follow the shape of the leaf. And this is how you draw a sage flower. I hope you guys like it. I feel like this one is a little bit hard to explain, but I think it turned out pretty nicely. And now let's move on to my all-time favorite flower to draw, the chrysanthemum flower. I find this flower to be so interesting, and to be honest, this is the first time I'm doodling it without sketching with a pencil first. So let's see what we can do. Basically, you're gonna start with the outside petals going around the main flower. So usually when we can see the center of a flower, like on a daisy or with a sunflower, you would draw the center and then draw the petals. But with the chrysanthemum flower, you can't really see the inside, and the petals are going to basically look like they're folding inwards all around the flower. So we're gonna start with the outside petals, which can be a little bit tricky. So basically copy what I'm doing here. You're gonna start with the outside petals, and they start thin coming from the flower, and they have a very curved rounded tip. It's almost like a drop of water, like you would draw a drop of water that has like a thin thing at the top and then super rounded at the bottom. Imagine if the shape of a drop of water could fold and be a little bit longer. This is what the petals kind of look like. And these petals that we're doing right now are loose petals, so you can draw some other petals overlapping them. As you can see, some of them look like they're folding upwards, which this is the effect we're trying to create. You can also add the petals at the back folding in towards the center of the flower like that. Just make sure you leave room for the main flower, and just keep adding these oval shapes like that, curving inwards and pointing towards the center, which if you think of this flower as a sphere, the center is kind of located more towards the top, so it looks like you're looking at your flower from an angle like this. And then as you keep adding petals and petals, the more you move towards the center, the smaller they get. Once you have a completed shape of your flower like this, you can add more loose petals at the back and all around it, because I feel like this is what makes the chrysanthemum look so interesting and funky. I just love it so much. It's kind of hard to explain, so basically just copy what I'm doing. Then you're gonna draw the stem, which is basically 2 straight lines. You want them to be a bit longer and thicker like this. And for the leaves, you can also look for a reference to see what they look like. I feel like I did a kind of a 5 out of 10 job here with this leaf, but it's not the traditional shape of a leaf. They basically are pointy to the sides. So you're basically going to create sections and clusters of 3 points. I'm also adding a button of the flower here to the side just to add a little extra detail. It's basically a little oval with some lines. You can also add some extra leaves like this. And to add a little detail to the leaves and just create a little bit of contrast and differentiation and texture, you can add some center lines moving from the stem toward the tips of the pointy clusters of each leaf. Just make sure that these lines never touch the edges of the leaves, like I said before. And this is how you draw a chrysanthemum flower. Super beautiful. I hope you guys were able to do this. Let me know in the comments if this was a little bit too hard. Now for flower number 8, we're doing Calla Lilies. I really feel like I'm butchering the pronunciation of this. Calla Lilies. Anyway, they are beautiful flowers, super easy to draw. So this is what we're doing. I want you to start with a line that goes up and curves left, then it moves right in a shaky, uneven way like this, and then comes back and ends behind the first part of the line. Then you're gonna add 2 short curves like this on both sides that kind of end together at the bottom, and then this vertical upside down U shape in the middle. And you probably are recognizing this flower at this point. You're gonna add 2 short curved lines on both sides like this. They just end without touching anything. Then you're gonna add the vertical upside down U shape in the middle, and you're probably starting to recognize this flower now. And then you're gonna draw the sides of the flower that kind of like end together at the bottom and the stem. And there you go. This is what a calla lily technically looks like. Let's do a smaller one next to it. This time, instead of moving your line to the right, we can make it point up like this and then follow the same process. And And for a third one, again, just draw the top part of the lily, a line along the bottom side like this, the upside down U shape, the sides of the flower narrowing down towards the stem, and this is basically it. If I would do this again, I would probably make them a little bit closer together so that they feel a little bit more cohesive. I feel like they're kind of like loose and taking too much space. And now we're gonna move on to flower number 9, and this is going to be a little bit more freestyle. Basically, I want you to start with some oval shapes overlapping at the bottom like this. So again, it's kind of like the upside down drop of water shape. I did the first one with 3 petals, but you can do more petals if you want. Just draw a few flowers like this and then add some lines that end together at the bottom for the stems. You also want to add some pointy ovals like this coming from the stem and curving to the sides. So these are basically cute rounded little leaves, and as you can see, they're not all coming only from the main stem. Some of them are coming from the stem, and then there's another oval coming from that secondary stem. I think that creates a little bit of a different path and design for your flower. And now for the flowers, I want you to add 3 short lines that come upwards like this with a tiny little curve at the top, so it looks like a little bit dark, and I think it adds a little bit of contrast as well to your flower. And to wrap this up, we're going to add a little bit of texture by hatching some lines on the petals from the stem towards the tip of each petal, but only at the bottom, so you're basically occupying maybe 1/4 of the petal. And this is it, guys. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please subscribe and leave a comment if you can. This really helps my channel. And of course, if you have a tutorial request, something you would like to learn how to draw, I would love to know in the comments as well, so I can make a video for you. Also, don't forget to sign up for the waiting list of my new ink program. I'm building it with so much love, and I'm so excited to share with you guys. And this is it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!